There was a time when single-player narrative games completely dominated the conversation. No live service games, no battle passes, no endless roadmaps, just unforgettable stories. Games like The Last of Us, God of War, Ghost of Tsushima, and even Uncharted 4. The kind of games you finish and then immediately wish you could experience for the first time again. And honestly, playing South of Midnight gave me that feeling once again. And not because it copies these games, but because it understands why those games mattered in the first place. South of Midnight feels handcrafted in many ways. The modern games, well, really do. Everything has identity. The art style, the folklore inspirations, the animation, and the atmosphere. It doesn't feel designed. It feels, well, handcrafted. It feels personal. The game leans heavily into Southern Gothic folklore, weaving together myths, trauma, family history, and magical realism into something that feels genuinely unique, especially for a AAA game. And the word weaving, it certainly becomes very important. The game's central idea of Hazel being a weaver isn't just a gameplay mechanic, it becomes the entire emotional language of the game. Threads connecting people, memories stitched together into places, and pain tangled in the world itself. And somehow the soundtrack just ties all of this together. Pardon the pun. But seriously, the music in this game isn't just background noise. It's the glue that holds everything together. The soundtrack in South of Midnight might honestly be one of the best in gaming in years. Not because it's loud, cinematic, but it feels alive. It's like stitched directly into the world. Sometimes it's very creepy, it's soft, through swamp ambience, but sometimes it erupts into full blues, folk gospel, or even haunting vocal performances that feel ripped out of a southern folklore itself. And the genius part, the soundtrack often acts as like a narrator. It tells you what the world is feeling before the characters even speak, and that's rare. It kind of gets thrown in your face a lot with dialogue in many games nowadays. But this approach is such a breath of fresh air. Well, it's in a swamp, but you know. A lot of modern game scores are technically impressive, but very interchangeable. You could swap them out between games and barely notice. You could never do that here. It immediately puts it alongside those iconic narrative-driven PlayStation-era experiences where the music became inseparable from the identity of the game itself. Thinking about the melancholy guitar of The Last of Us and the booming cinematic choirs from God of War, the lonely atmosphere of Death Stranding. When you hear those soundtracks, you instantly picture the world, and South of Midnight achieves the exact same thing. And I mean this in the biggest compliment possible. South of Midnight feels like a peak PS4 era single player game. Very focused, narrative driven, and stylized. And, emotional. Remember when games weren't afraid to just tell a strong story in 12 to 20 hours and leave a lasting impact? That era gave us masterpieces because developers focused on experiences over engagement and metrics. No padding, no content roadmaps, just a memorable journey with strong characters, incredible art direction, and music that sticks in your brain for years. That's the exact energy that South of Midnight just brings back, and I absolutely love it. It trusts the player to slow down and absorb the world, and honestly, in today's gaming landscape, it feels so refreshing. With its stop-motion inspired visuals and exaggerated character designs, and even the folklore storytelling, it's confident in its identity, and ironically, that makes it feel more immersive, because you remember these places, you remember these songs, you remember these individual moments. That's a sign of great art direction, and that just wins over technical obsession, especially nowadays. I can talk so much about the songs and the visual style, but even the story alone is just incredible. It's about healing, about inherited pain, broken histories, and communities carrying trauma of generations. And the weaving metaphor works so well because the game constantly asks, what happens when the threads holding people together start to break? The emotional core is what elevates the gaming beyond its good aesthetics. It gives everything weight. And again, the soundtrack only amplifies this. Every single emotional beat. There are many moments in the game where the music alone carries scenes harder than any dialogue could ever. And that's when you know a game understands audio design on a much deeper level. South of Midnight reminded me why I fell in love with single-player games in the first place. Not because it's trying to be the biggest game ever made, not because it's trying to chase trends, but because it has a vision, it has personality, it has atmosphere, it has music that breathes life into the world, and mostly it just feels lived in. Like those unforgettable PS4 era narrative games people still talk about years later, I hope this game gets spoken about many years on. If this is the direction that more studios are starting to take again, single player games are in a very good place. Thanks for watching.